This video is on the midpoint formula. As you saw in the Unit 2.5 investigation and application, the coordinates of the midpoint of a segment are the averages of the values of the x and y coordinates of its endpoints. It's very easy to find the midpoint of a horizontal or a vertical segment on the coordinate plane. You can just count to find the middle. However, if the segment is slanted, it is a bit more challenging. So let's take a look at the graph that you saw in the Unit 2.5 investigation. Given segment AB below, we can draw segment AC, which represents the distance between the x coordinates. And that would be right here. We can also draw segment BC, which represents the distance between the y coordinates. That would be this segment right here. And then we can find the midpoint of each of those segments very easily by counting. So that's the midpoint of segment AC. And this would be the midpoint of segment BC, and we can translate those to the segment AB. And that gives us the midpoint of segment AB. Using the actual ordered pairs, A is -3, 2, and B is 5, -4. If we add the x coordinates of each pair, so of each ordered pair, that is -3 plus 5, and divide that by 2, that gives us 1, which is the x coordinate of the midpoint. And if we add the y coordinates of the 2 points, that is 2 plus a -4, and divide that by 2, take the average, that gives us -1. That gives us the y coordinate of the midpoint. That means that the midpoint of segment AB is 1, -1, which is what we saw when we drew the midpoints of the two segments that make it a right triangle. So the midpoint of a segment that has endpoints x1, y1 and x2, y2 is x1 plus x2 divided by 2 and y1 plus y2 divided by 2. Notice that this gives us an ordered pair. x1 plus x2 over 2 is the x coordinate of the midpoint, and y1 plus y2 is the y coordinate of the midpoint. Let's try one example together where we don't use a graph and we just use the formula. So we need to find the midpoint of segment AB, given that A is -1, 3 and B is -5, 9. So the x coordinate of my midpoint is going to be -1 plus a -5 over 2, and the y coordinate is going to be 3 plus 9 divided by 2. And I'm going to put that in parentheses to remind myself that this is an ordered pair. So now we just need to simplify that. So that's going to give me -6 over 2 and 12 over 2, or -3, 6. So the point -3, 6 is the midpoint of segment AB. So in this video we took a look at how the midpoint formula is derived, and then how to use the midpoint formula given 2 points.